CP, the franchise, orange and blue skies in New York.
It was a lot of doom and gloom. 4-game losing streak. They got embarrassed on MLK Day, on the Kings Day. I was in the building for that. I don't even remember the score. All I know is they were down by 30, so I'll just say they lost by 30. It was that bad. So they had to take their frustrations out on the Nets. So it was good. They got back right.
A lot of trade buzz around Karl-Anthony Towns. How real is it from what you're hearing?
I don't think it's real. I think a Towns trade. Look, nobody's untouchable in this league nowadays, as we've seen. I mean, you look last year with the Luka trade, but for them to trade Towns, I think that would be a knee-jerk reaction. I think that would be panicking and waving the white flag, especially because I don't think that they would be able to get equal or greater value in a Towns trade. I look at it as similar to what they were facing with Julius Randle, where they were trying to trade him for a couple years, and it's not an easy trade. And so the only thing that they could do was trade him for Towns because of Minnesota's salary cap situation and Minnesota not really believing in Cat as a guy that could help them in their championship cause. So I think the Knicks lucked out in being able to swap for those two players, but I don't see the same case here, especially mid-season. I think the Knicks need to ride this out with the team, go through the lumps, go through the adversity, and we'll see where they end up at come playoff time.
Talent-wise, I agree. You probably won't get enough in return, but how are you feeling about the relationship with Mike Brown and Cat?
They got to work that out. Everybody's relationship, look, man, as human beings, whether it's life, whether it's business, whether it's work, you're not always going to be on the same page with people. But one thing that we do know is that Karl is a high character, high class guy. He's not a toxic guy. So I don't believe that any strain or any rift between those guys can be repaired. I think both of those guys, being even-keeled men, should be able to come to the table with Jalen Brunson as well to figure out, how do we get on the same page? How do we make Karl, our big man, a big piece to this puzzle? How do we make him more comfortable in what we're doing offensively and defensively? Maybe that's what, Mike Brown had alluded to, the fact that he had tweaked some things after their NBA Cup win. So maybe that was part of it, maybe he was simplifying things a little bit more to make Karl a little bit more comfortable with what they were doing. He didn't elaborate on what he changed, but maybe that was the impetus. So again, I think, look, this is new. It's new for the coach. It's new for the players. These things happen. At least it should happen. Maybe they're not always just going to be, on the same page from the jump. A little speed bump, they should be able to get through it.
Mike Brown, it's actually been more than half the season. How would you grade his tenure with the Knicks?
I give it a C. It's incomplete. Because to me, the tenure can't be fully graded until you see how they fare in the playoffs and beyond. That's what he was brought here for. He's brought here to take this team to the finals. We've seen some new wrinkles with his offense that is different than what Tom Thibodeau brought in terms of the ball movement, the player movement, that being more a consistent staple of their offense. Yes, they were doing that under Tibbs, but not as consistently. But under Brown, you were seeing that. A case in point, in the Knicks win over the Nets, you're seeing more of Jalen Brunson off ball. He's handling the ball a little bit less. Not a drastic difference, but a little bit less time of possession on the ball. And so they are trying to sprinkle in new wrinkles to diversify the offense a little bit. And so we've seen that in the early goings. The rotation, getting guys like Shamet involved, and earlier in the year we did see some of the youth movement get involved in this rotation a little bit early. Now, since they've hit that rough patch, he's kind of been a bit more conservative with the rotation, sticking with the vets, because I think there is pressure here to win. So far, I'm going to give it a C, and we'll see what happens come April and beyond.
Is Jalen Brunson doing enough? He is the point guard to maximize Karl-Anthony Towns, because we saw with Julius Randle, the two-man game never quite fully came together. How much does this fall on Brunson being their point guard?
He's the head of the snake. He is the point guard and the captain and the leader of this team. We can look at the stats and say, hey, congratulations on being an all-star starter in the East. It's well-deserved. And representing New York again for the third year in a row, he deserves a lot of praise for that. And he's a model citizen. He's a captain, a great guy. And, we as a fan base, I'm sure that we are very proud of that accomplishment. But part of their rough patch, as he said after the Knicks win over the Nets, was soul-searching. was self-reflection in terms of what not just him, but everybody can be doing better. And I think he's taking that seriously. And you saw a little bit of a change in that win over the Nets, where he started off the game really being aggressive in terms of playmaking and getting his guys involved. I think it's a tricky balance for Jalen, in that we know that his best strength is his scoring ability. He's the team's best scorer. He's their most reliable scorer, their most clutch scorer. So I think it's a tricky balance between when do I need to go get mine for this team to win, and when do I need to get my guys involved? But specifically with Karl-Anthony Towns, I have not seen where those two guys have been complementing each other. I believe that there's a lot left on the bone there between those two guys, and I hope that they can figure it out. That's where Mike Brown is here for. And so whether it's, some people say, hey, listen, you can't fully optimize those guys, because if an opposing wing is guarding Towns and you have the center on the heart, then the pick and roll may not be as effective. So then, hey, do I need to bring in Deuce McBride a little bit earlier to see how that works, to get true 5-out spacing where you have no choice but to put the center on Towns? And then can we get some more fruitful two-man game between Brunson and Towns? Is it more, again, Towns, they stagger the two guys, Towns running with that second unit? Okay, so now he's running with McBride and Shamet and Clarkson. Can they get enough playmaking to get Towns easier shots? I think that's part of where Towns' frustration is coming from. He's working way too hard to get his shots, and right now he's looking at one of the worst seasons of his career statistically. So Jalen's got to get on the same page with the big man. The coaches got to get these guys on the same page, because it's for the betterment of the team. They can't win a championship without those two guys being the best versions of themselves.
Becky Hammond once said Jalen Brunson is not a 1A dude, and she got destroyed by the internet for that. Is she somewhere looking in the mirror like, I told you so? Like, how do you feel about Jalen Brunson as a 1A player? You mentioned him maybe not having full chemistry yet with Cat. He didn't really get it done with Julius Randle. Defensively, they're a duo with Cat and Brunson that struggles sometimes, especially against some of the tougher teams in the East. How do you feel about Jalen Brunson at this point as a 1A player?
Oh, it's an interesting question in that, some people say, hey, is this another Dame Lillard situation? Where
we see trade value. We see Ja on the trade block, right? Like, these smaller guards, it's getting tougher and tougher in this league with.
Right. Well, I think in Trey's situation, there was a lot of deficiencies there, but and Ja as well, in terms of their limitations. With Jalen, his scoring ability is off the charts. He has playmaking chops. He has playmaking ability. We just haven't seen it game to game on a consistent basis, because again, it's hard to mix the two when you are the best option for the team.
Yeah.
To go out there and score. That's what he knows what to do. That's what he does best. So you could argue, hey, yes, he could be a 1A guy, but does he need another facilitator alongside of him so that you can get him in off-ball situations to score and lead your team that way? You can still be a 1A guy that way, right? And 1A guy doesn't necessarily have to be the guy that, play makes for everybody else. That's not necessarily the case. So maybe it's just from a roster construction standpoint, they could be a little bit hamstrung because they don't have another facilitator that can help spray the ball around. So I think it's still TBD whether or not he can be that. But look, that's why you play the games, and we have to see what these guys can do with Mike Brown's system. But I do think the void of playmaking is a big factor with this team.
Is that something you look for in the trade market?
It's hard. It's hard, it's hard. The options are slim. The Knicks cap sheet is very tight. They don't have much assets to deal, so they're not really dealing from a position of strength. They have to more or less get lucky and get something on the margins. But to find a playmaking guard, I think that's the hardest thing to get out there right now. There's not too many guys available in that regard based on what the Knicks are dealing with in terms of assets to spend.
We saw Jalen Brunson a little more off ball, cutting off the ball yesterday. I even was, my guy Josh Smith, shouts to Josh, had me watching Villanova Jalen Brunson highlights. I don't know why he had me doing this. He was saying that we got to keep the Nova core trade cat. I know you're not on the trade cat thing, but watching him with Villanova, he was moving more without the ball. Like, he was cutting, he was shooting in transition. There was a little bit less ball stopping. Maybe that's where they have to implement Jalen Brunson, even though you're right, he's the best option at the same time. So it's a tough balance.
So then in that regard, it's, hey, is it rolling off of Towns out of the high post, right? Jokic and Murray. Is it involving a Kolek into this situation for a couple minutes, right? We know that Tyler has his own deficiencies, but as a playmaker, you can't question that. And so, again, they've got to figure out how to get a little bit more creative there. But I think there is opportunity there from playing off of Towns and maybe implementing a little Kolek at times as well.
Believe in Kolek as a playoff contributor because you already mentioned they need more playmaking alongside Brunson.
Yeah.
And is that even good enough defensively if you have Brunson and Kolek on the floor at the same time in the playoffs?
I think it's tough because one thing I've wanted to see is him against those elite teams this year, and so far he's got a failing grade. From the Detroits, Phoenix, Timberwolves, like he struggled against upper echelon defenses and ball pressure. The one thing is, look, the good thing is this year is that he's gotten the exposure, he's gotten the playing time, and in the beginning, he showed flashes of brilliance. But the counter to that is the more you play, the more film is out on you, as you know, as a former pro, right? The more film that's out on you. Now the teams are preparing, and they know your strengths, they know your weaknesses. They complement that with the data that they're seeing, right? How does he fare going to his left? How does he fare going to his right? How does he fare if you close off his airspace? So all of that is there. Now it's on the Knicks and for him to develop those counters. And as a young player, this is only his second year. So we'll also have to give him time to get bigger, right? Get smarter, let the game slow down a little bit more, and then he'll figure out where he fits in. Now, look at a guy like a TJ McConnell. It didn't all come together for him early. He's a much, much better player now than he was in those Philadelphia days. So that just comes with growth and experience. So for Tyler, I'm not so sure if they're going to be able to lean on him in the playoffs, right? But that's where a guy like I said, a Towns, but even like a Josh Hart. Because for Josh Hart to be impactful in the playoffs when the opposing team is going to put their centers on him and force him to shoot the threes, he has to be more impactful. He can be more impactful with the ball in his hands. Playmaking for Jalen. Or is it guard screen, setting screens for Jalen to get open and relocate into his spots, getting to those elbow three jumpers. So I think Josh Hart is going to play a very big role in this as a playmaker, as a facilitator, not just from Jalen Brunson, but for the entire team.
How true is it that there's a lot of trade interest around Miles McBride?
Well, with his contract, I would have to think so. I think that's logical, man. I mean, he's one of the best. If you look at the metrics, he's one of the top 10, 20 shooters in the entire NBA. I mean, the shooting efficiency is off the charts with Deuce this year. Plus, his ability to be pressure the ball, full court defense, on the ball, point of attack defender as well. I think he's pretty good in that regard. So teams should be after McBride. I'd be hesitant if I were the Knicks to trade him. I think he's too important for this team and what they're trying to do. And as that kind of tweener guard who's tough, McBride has that grit. That's what everybody's looking for with this team. Like, where's their heart? Where's their grit? McBride has to be with this team. And I like the way that he's approached this season. I love to see his development. We've been watching McBride since he was drafted by this team. And every year he's leveled up, man. So you could see him really turning into a veteran and being a pro's pro.
I'm sure he's thinking in his head, I better be paid soon because of his official. Yeah, he got to be paid. Yeah,
McBride, he's going to get like 5 times what he got. I mean, him and his agent gave the Knicks a huge deal on that last one. Now it's going to be interesting to see because Mitch Robinson's going to be due to get paid, and then Deuce is going to be due to get paid. My tagline is everybody's not coming along for the ride, so Knicks are going to have some tough decisions to make by next year.
What's up with Mitch? Is he okay?
Yeah, I think Mitch is good, man. Listen, I think it's this new generation of players and young people, the way that they emote and express themselves is through social media. And he's a guy that's similar. That's his therapist, if you will. That's how he pours himself out. He seems to wear his heart on his sleeve. But it also seems like basketball is his therapy, too, because he goes out there and he does his job, which is to get after it on the boards, be the backline communication on the defensive side, and he's been really helping this team. He's been playing well over the last couple of weeks. So, hey, whatever it takes to allow Mitch to be the best version of himself, so be it. But I think he's all right.
Yeah, shouts to him. I hope he's okay. I would say from a basketball perspective, it must be tough sometimes to be playing with Cat and Brunson, though. I mean, I hope that's not what's driving him
You
off the
got
deep
to
end.
feed big country, man. He says it. I'm not just out there trying to do cardio. You got to feed big country. But what I do like is over the last 2 games, you saw 3 alley-oops from Brunson to Towns. From Brunson to Mitch. So they seem to be getting him involved a little bit more. But look, Mitch also has to do a better job of being a bit more sure-handed around the glass. He's kind of dipped. In his early days, he was very sure-handed around the rim. I mean, his field goal percentage was almost like 70% or something like that. It was incredible. But that's dipped a little bit. And so he's got to work on that, keep working on the free throws. But nevertheless, I think he's a very valuable piece for this team.
You could tell he loves the game. You see the off-season videos of him handling the basketball. He wants to play a little point guard, man. So Jalen Brunson, keep throwing those lobs, keep him involved.
Yeah, they got to feed big country. They got to feed him. Yeah, he's a one of one, Mitch, man. He sticks to himself. He loves his country music. He loves his big trucks. Stays out of trouble. Stays out the way. He's a low-maintenance guy in that regard. So I got no complaints there.
True to himself.
True to him. Knicks Fan TV, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Snapchat, we everywhere, man. So definitely appreciate the time, man.
Appreciate your time. Talk soon.